This is episode 17 of the Creator God theory of the Atonement. I've titled it Creator God Greater Than His Creations, with the subtitle No Need for Any Divine Calculus of Sins, Part 5. Let's start by looking at the big picture. This is the Creator God framework, our working model for understanding the problem of the fall, the need for an atonement, and the Creator's role in salvation. The arrows show the flow of responsibility and causal relationships, while the subheading, My Circus, My Monkeys, My Problem, reminds us that from the Creator God's perspective, the plan, the problem, and the solution are all part of his working model. With this framework in view, we can see how Jacob builds his case for an infinite atonement by starting with death, which he ties to the universal fall of humanity. A universal fall presupposes a creation, and creation presupposes a Creator God. From there, Jacob introduces a merciful plan belonging to this great Creator. But a plan from the Creator God's perspective is not arbitrary. My plan presupposes eternal realities that are absolute and which the Creator cannot override but must work within. It also implies Creator God accountability for both the creation and the fall, meaning that my plan implies my problem. That problem, Jacob explains, cannot be solved by fallen creation itself. It requires a solution powered by resurrection, a power that does not arise from the fall and therefore must come from the Creator God. Because death and the fall are universal, this solution requires the power of resurrection and must be infinite in scope, reach, and power, resulting in universal resurrection and immortality for all mankind. The minimum condition of salvation, Jacob identifies. Now notice something important in this Creator God framework. Jacob establishes eternal realities, creation, the fall, accountability, and the necessity of an infinite atonement. Yet one element remains unnamed, the Godhead. He speaks repeatedly of the great Creator, but does not explicitly identify who this Creator God is. This is not because Jacob is unaware. He clearly knows. Rather, for the purposes of this argument, his focus is on the necessity and nature of the atonement, not on specifying the identity of the Creator God. That absence matters, however, because we have already established a key insight of this course. The Godhead is the how of the atonement. Given its importance, it is significant that the Book of Mormon does address this doctrine, which is why we turn from Jacob to King Benjamin to clarify this element of the Creator God framework. In King Benjamin's sermon, an angel of God declares Jesus Christ, the Son of God, to be the Creator God, the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. From a Latter-day Saint perspective, this language can only be understood within a corporate Godhead framework. Jesus Christ is not described as a mere delegate or representative acting by borrowed authority, but as possessing Creator God status, authority, and power. Otherwise, the angel's declaration that he is the Father of heaven and earth and the Creator of all things from the beginning would be unintelligible. With that Latter-day Saint framework in mind, we now turn to King Benjamin. His sermon provides one of the Book of Mormon's clearest identifications of Jesus Christ as the Creator God, and in doing so supplies the missing Godhead element in the Creator God framework that Jacob's argument presupposes but does not explicitly name. We begin with the text itself, Mosiah chapter 3, verses 5 and 8. For behold, the time cometh, and is not far distant, that with power the Lord omnipotent, who reigneth, who was and is, from all eternity to all eternity, shall come down from heaven among the children of men, and shall dwell in a tabernacle of clay. And he shall be called Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. And his mother shall be called Mary. Unlike Jacob, where we identified multiple distinct markers, death, plan, power, and infinite, we take a different approach with King Benjamin. Rather than separating individual markers, we condense everything the angel declares into one central declared reality. The angel describes a being with eternal power reigning from all eternity to all eternity called the Lord Omnipotent, who comes down among the children of men, is named Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and is also called the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. Taken together, these declarations resolve into a single unmistakable claim. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is the Creator God. The significance here is not that there is a Creator God. The significance is who that Creator God turns out to be. King Benjamin is not introducing the idea of a great Creator. Jacob has already established that such a being must exist. What the angel now does is identify that creator, the one who possesses eternal power, reigns from eternity to eternity, and stands as Father of heaven and earth is not a distant divine abstraction, it is Jesus Christ, the Son of God. This single declared reality leads to two inseparable conclusions. First, it presupposes and implies a corporate Godhead in which Jesus Christ holds Creator God status. And second, it presupposes and implies a creator-level solution to the universal problem of the fall. This brings us to a common misunderstanding. Passages like these within the Book of Mormon, wherein Jesus Christ is simultaneously named as Son of God and as Father of heaven and earth, are often mistakenly read as supporting the Holy Trinity by collapsing distinct personages within the Godhead into a single one in three being. In reality, King Benjamin and other Book of Mormon prophets are doing no such thing, but are doing something far more precise. They are not collapsing the members of the Godhead into one eternal substance or being. Instead, they are identifying Jesus Christ, the Son of God, at the Creator God level of the Godhead, and declaring that it is from this Creator God level, or status, that Jesus Christ descends, redeems, and answers for fallen creation. This is not an isolated statement. From Nephi to Christ himself, the Book of Mormon repeatedly declares that Jesus Christ, identified as the Son of God, is also called the Father of heaven and earth and the Creator of all things. This convergence of titles appears across prophets, generations, and even from Christ himself, forming a structural feature of the text that demands a coherent explanation. Still, passages like these can create confusion and raise the question, how can Jesus Christ be spoken of simultaneously as Son and as Father without collapsing the Godhead into a single being? To answer that question, we now turn to Abinadi, who does precisely that by clarifying how these roles function within Jesus Christ's mission, explaining the distinction between Christ as Son in the flesh and Christ as Father in power. Let's turn now to that insightful explanation. Among the Book of Mormon prophets, I focus on Abinadi because his account is often confusing. Yet when properly read, it most clearly clarifies how Jesus Christ can simultaneously be Son, Creator God, and Father of heaven and earth, a truth that presupposes a corporate Godhead of distinct unified members. Let's begin then with the words of Abinadi from Mosiah chapter 15, verses 1 through 5. And now Abinadi said unto them, I would that ye should understand that God himself shall come down among the children of men, and shall redeem his people. And because he dwelleth in flesh, he shall be called the Son of God, and having subjected the flesh to the will of the Father, being the Father and the Son. The Father because he was conceived by the power of God, and the Son because of the flesh, thus becoming the Father and Son. And they are one God, yea, the very eternal Father of heaven and of earth. And thus the flesh becoming subject to the Spirit, or the Son to the Father, being one God, suffereth temptation, and yieldeth not to the temptation, but suffereth himself to be mocked and scourged and cast out and disowned by his people. There are enough markers in this passage that we could spend an entire episode unpacking every backward presupposition and every forward implication embedded in Abinadi's words. But even if we did, we would arrive at the same place, because Abinadi is not introducing a new doctrine. He is clarifying a tension that already exists throughout the Book of Mormon. Historically, Abinadi precedes King Benjamin by roughly a generation. Yet it is King Benjamin who gives us the tension in its purest form, without explanation and without resolution. And he shall be called Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. The text does not tell us how to reconcile those titles. It simply places them side by side and assumes they belong together. Prophets like King Benjamin, Amulek, and Samuel the Lamanite freely and unapologetically use two kinds of language for Jesus Christ: Son of God language on the one hand and Creator God language on the other. They do so without apology and without resolving the tension. Abinadi's role then is to resolve that tension, to show what these titles mean, how they work together, and crucially, that they refer to one person, Jesus Christ, not two beings, nor a Trinitarian conflation of persons into one substance. Let us now walk carefully through Abinadi's 5-step clarification and confirmation. Step 1. Declaration. Abinadi, begins by declaring that God himself shall come down among the children of men and shall redeem his people. The language is unmistakable. Creator God language. God himself descends, not a delegated servant or mere representative. Redemption is tied directly to the divine identity of God himself. Step 2, role explanation. Abinadi then addresses the dual titles. Because he dwells in flesh, he shall be called the Son of God. And having subjected the flesh to the will of the Father, he is called both the Father and the Son. Step 3, role clarification. Not content to leave it there, Abinadi clarifies further. He is called the Father because he was conceived by the power of God, and the Son because of the flesh. Son refers to embodiment in mortality. Father refers to divine origin, power, and authority. Step 4, unifying conclusion. Then comes the decisive statement. They are one God, yea, the very eternal Father of heaven and of earth. The two roles do not divide the being. The Creator God, the very eternal Father, and the incarnate Son, or Redeemer, are one and the same person. Step 5, confirmation. Finally, Abinadi confirms the argument. And thus the flesh becoming subject to the Spirit, or the Son to the Father, being one God, suffereth temptation, yieldeth not, but is scourged, cast out, and disowned by his people. This reinforces Abinadi's central claim. God himself comes down to redeem his people. He is called the Son because he dwells in flesh. He is called the Father because of divine origin and authority. The Father and the Son are one God, the very eternal Father and Redeemer. And it is this one God who suffers in the flesh. This is not two beings nor two persons fused together. It is one God occupying two necessary roles, Creator God and Incarnate Redeemer. Now let's return to King Benjamin's declaration. And he shall be called Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. What once seemed like unresolved tension now reads as deliberate unity. Son of God, Father of heaven and earth, Creator from the beginning. Abinadi has given us the key. These titles do not compete, they converge in one person, Jesus Christ. And it is precisely this unified identity of Father and Son that makes an infinite and eternal atonement possible, which now brings us to our third and final book of Mormon prophet, Amulek, who speaks explicitly of the necessity of such an infinite and eternal atonement. Here we have a condensed version of Amulek's text taken from the book of Alma, chapter 34, verses 10 through 14, which reads as follows. For it is expedient that there should be a great and last sacrifice, yea, not a sacrifice of man, for it shall not be a human sacrifice, but it must be an infinite and eternal sacrifice. Therefore there can be nothing which is short of an infinite atonement, which will suffice for the sins of the world, and that great and last sacrifice will be the Son of God, yea, infinite and eternal. From this text, we can summarize its key declarations in a set of 5 markers that structure his argument. These markers capture the heart of Amulek's teaching. They declare first that a great and last sacrifice is required. Second, that it cannot be a human sacrifice. Third, that this sacrifice be infinite and eternal in nature. Fourth, that nothing short of infinite and eternal will suffice. And fifth, therefore, the great and last sacrifice will be the Son of God, who is both infinite and eternal. Amulek does 2 significant things in these markers. First, he establishes that the atonement itself must be infinite and eternal in its nature. Second, he identifies that the Son of God himself will be infinite and eternal in his nature. These 2 points form the foundation for understanding how the atonement operates within the Creator God framework. We will now turn to these points in order, beginning with the infinite and eternal requirement for the atonement. Previously, the Book of Mormon establishes that the atonement must be infinite, unlimited in scope, and inexhaustible in redemptive sufficiency. Nothing finite can answer the universal reach of sin and death. The solution must be without limit in its saving power. But Amulek advances the argument further. He does not merely repeat infinite, he couples it with eternal. The sacrifice must be infinite and eternal. this addition matters. Infinite addresses scope and sufficiency. It answers the question, is it enough? Is the atonement unlimited in reach? Can it cover all humanity? Can it fully answer the consequences of the fall? Eternal addresses duration and permanence. It answers a different question. Will it endure? Does its power expire? Can its effects be undone? Does it overcome death, not temporarily but permanently? If the fall introduces unlimited consequences, and if those consequences persist forward in time, then the solution must surpass fallen creation in both dimensions. It must be unlimited in sufficiency and unending in duration. In other words, the solution must be both infinite and eternal. Amulek explicitly provides the second dimension, permanence over time, by emphasizing that the sacrifice is not only infinite in power, but also eternal in duration. This highlights that it is not enough for the atonement to be sufficient. It must endure, fully addressing both the scope and the lasting consequences of the fall. Amulek does something else equally significant. He does not describe only the atonement as infinite and eternal. He also describes the Son of God as infinite and eternal. The same language qualifies both the act and the actor. Properly understood, infinite does not mean abstract mathematical infinitude, but unlimited and inexhaustible divine sufficiency. Eternal denotes unending duration. When applied to the atonement, these terms mean the redemptive act is unlimited in scope and permanent in effect. When applied to the Son of God, they mean he possesses unlimited divine life and power that exists without end. Therefore, the infinite and eternal nature of the atonement derives from the infinite and eternal nature of the being who offers it. A finite being cannot generate unlimited sufficiency or everlasting victory over death. Only an infinite and eternal Son can produce an infinite and eternal sacrifice. The attributes of the person ground the power of the act. Now let's ask, what do Amulek's two claims actually imply? First, he insists that the sacrifice must be infinite. Second, he insists that the sacrifice must be eternal. These are not ornamental descriptors. They are necessities. Why? Because the fall generates what we've called an open set of consequences. Sin multiplies. Death continues. Corruption spreads forward across generations. The effects are not capped, they propagate endlessly. So, if the problem is unlimited in scope and ongoing in duration, then the solution must exceed it in both dimensions. And this is where our familiar framework comes back into view. If Amulek is right, then his two claims compress into a single governing principle. Creator God, infinite and eternal, must stand greater than the open set of fallen creation, with unlimited consequences and ongoing duration. Only such a creator can occupy that greater than position over creation. Notice what this means for the atonement. The sacrifice cannot be a human offering. It must be infinite and eternal, meaning greater than fallen creation, meaning the Son of God must be an infinite and eternal being. Otherwise, terms like Father, Son, Creator, infinite, and eternal lose their ontological grounding. So the atonement is not merely an act within fallen creation. It is the act of the Creator who stands greater than the creation that fell. And it also presupposes a corporate Godhead, for only this explains how the Son of God can dwell in the flesh, yet possess the infinite and eternal status of the eternal Father of heaven and earth. As we shall soon see, it is precisely this complexity, this combination of Son and Creator God status, that prompts Zizrom to try to trap Amulek in a lie. And it is to Amulek's defense of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as the Creator God and Redeemer of the world that we now turn. Having just seen Amulek emphasize that the sacrifice must be both infinite and eternal, we now watch him defend the identity of the one who offers that sacrifice. Zizrom attempts to trap him, not on morality, but on theology. First, he secures Amulek's agreement that there is a true and living God. Amulek affirms it. Yea, there is a true and living God. Then he presses further. Is there more than one God? Amulek answers plainly, no. Now the trap tightens. Who is he that shall come? Is it the Son of God? Again, Amulek answers, Yea. At this point, Zizram senses an apparent contradiction. If there is only one God and yet the Son of God shall come down to redeem his people, does that not imply two gods? He attempts to weaponize the tension before the crowd, suggesting that Amulek has contradicted himself. But before pressing that point, Zizram tries another angle. Shall he save his people in their sins? Amulek responds clearly, I say unto you, he shall not. Notice what happens next. Zizram turns to the people and reframes the answer. See that ye remember these things. For he said there is but one God, yet he saith that the Son of God shall come, but he shall not save his people, as though he had authority to command God. Do you see the shift? Amulek said Christ would not save them in their sins. Zizram drops the qualifier and makes it sound as though Amulek denied salvation altogether. Then he sharpens the accusation, suggesting that Amulek speaks as though he had authority to command God. But Amulek does not retreat. He answers bluntly, Behold, thou hast lied. In attempting to expose contradiction, Zizram is himself exposed. He has altered the wording and recast the claim, turning a doctrinal clarification into an apparent denial. The question is no longer whether Amulek is inconsistent, but whether Zizram is distorting the doctrine before the crowd. And notice what happens next. Having failed to secure the contradiction, Zizram returns to the original pressure point with even greater force. Is the Son of God the very eternal Father? If there is but one God, and yet the Son of God shall come, who is this Son? Is he the very eternal Father, making one God out of what appears to be two? Amulek answers boldly, Yea, he is the very eternal Father of heaven and of earth, and all things which in them are. And he shall come into the world to redeem his people, and he shall take upon him the transgressions of those who believe on his name. And these are they that shall have eternal life, and salvation cometh to none else. Notice what he is doing. He refuses to surrender the truths he has declared. There is one true and living God. The Son of God shall come down to redeem his people. He will not save them in their sins, thus preserving both justice and mercy. And that Son is the very eternal Father of heaven and earth, the Creator himself. Amulek's defense of Jesus Christ as Creator and Redeemer culminates with one of the most remarkable statements in the Book of Mormon. For behold, the day cometh that all shall rise from the dead, and stand before God, and be judged according to their works, and be arraigned before the bar of Christ the Son, and God the Father, and the Holy Spirit, which is one eternal God. Here he names the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost as distinct, and yet declares them one eternal God. What later Latter-day Saint theology would describe as a unified corporate Godhead, distinct personages, yet one eternal Godhead, is already present in his testimony, and the central claim is never surrendered. God himself shall come down to redeem his people. Throughout the Book of Mormon, this remains constant. However difficult it may be to articulate the unity of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost within that corporate oneness, the prophets never abandon the core affirmation that the Creator is the Redeemer. Joseph Smith would later speak of the covenant relationship and distinct roles of these three divine persons as God the Creator, God the Redeemer, and God the Testator or Witness. Together they are declared to be one eternal God, a phrase better understood in Latter-day Saint theology as one eternal Godhead. Having seen Amulek stand his ground, declaring the Son to be the very eternal Father, and affirming the oneness of the Godhead, we now widen the lens. He is not alone. Across the Book of Mormon, prophet after prophet bears the same witness. What Amulek defended under cross-examination is the steady, consistent testimony of the record itself. God himself shall come down to redeem his people. That gospel truth brings us to a natural pause before continuing our exploration. In the next episode, we will examine why that truth eliminates the need for any divine calculus of sins. But for now, this is the moment to reflect. If the Creator-God theory of the atonement is valid, it should be testified to in the Book of Mormon itself, and it is. Consider this montage of voices: Jacob, Abinadi, King Benjamin, and Amulek, speaking across time, yet harmonizing in their message. to fulfill the merciful plan of the great Creator. God himself shall come down among the children of men and shall redeem his people. And he shall be called Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Father of heaven and earth, the Creator of all things from the beginning. For it is expedient that there should be a great and last sacrifice, yea, not a sacrifice of man, for it shall not be a human sacrifice, but it must be an infinite and eternal sacrifice. And that great and last sacrifice will be the Son of God, yea, infinite and eternal. Let the testimony of these Book of Mormon prophets on the Creator God theory of the atonement sink in as we carry these truths into our next episode, explaining why there is no need for any divine calculus of sins.